Hi, I'm Dr. Padilla. Here we talk about all things data visualization, and we're going to begin our discussion of Vega-Lite colors. First, we're going to start with categorical colors, but there are lots of different color options in Vega-Lite. To begin this tutorial, you'll want to import Vega-Lite, and I'm working in this data set that we've worked with in past videos, so check those out if you want to know how to make a plot like this. So what we have going on in this plot is we have a bar chart that's using this comic books data, and we've filtered out missing values for both the align, which is this character type if the characters were specified as good, bad, neutral, or reformed, and their hair color because there was missing data for both of those. And then on the X, we're plotting the appearance in terms of the number of times that they appeared in different comics, and then we're plotting the hair and whether or not they were one of these different character types with color. Now we'll just focus on color for this tutorial, and what you might have noticed is most of Vega-Lite's visualizations produce this color palette for categorical colors here. And this is the Tableau 10 color palette by default, but there's a lot of other options that you can use that are already built into Vega-Lite. Here's the Vega-Lite official documentation where it talks about all the different color schemes that are available. In particular, we have all of these different categorical color schemes, which are great. Now, the important part is that Vega-Lite is created by data visualization researchers. So a great deal of research has went into backing each of these different color palettes. And part of what's going on is some of these are using a Tableau palette like this one here, which has been extensively studied by researchers at Tableau, and other color palettes use ColorBrewer, which is an amazing website created by Cynthia Brewer and collaborators, where they did extensive research to determine which color palettes were perceptually discriminable, which are aesthetically pleasing, and how does that work for different numbers of classes and different types of color palettes. In particular, in ColorBrewer, we have sequential color palettes that are kind of one directional. We have diverging color palettes to emphasize differences between two ends of your spectrum. And what we're looking at right now is qualitative color palettes, which indicate values that are qualitatively different from one another. The way that you use this website is you specify the number of classes of your data that you have, in our case 4, and it allows you to select different attributes. So if you wanted a color palette that was colorblind safe, this is actually the only one in this qualitative color palette. Now, looking back at the options that we have in Vega-Lite, it can be a little bit hard to map some of these categories back on to the original ones in ColorBrewer, in part because they've been tweaked a little bit. But this particular color palette that is based on ColorBrewer and is colorblind safe is this one down here, this paired. So how do we actually go about changing the color palette? It's very easy to do in Vega-Lite. We would add a scale to the color, and we're going to set the scheme of the color, and I'm going to choose set 1 to start, and notice it changes the colors around, which is great. So here I have listed out all of the different default palettes that you can choose from. I would encourage you to try them on, play around with them, see if there's some that are more interesting to you than others. If you're worried about which one of these are colorblind safe, so you can pick the one that was verified to be colorblind safe by ColorBrewer, which is this paired color palette here. If you're interested to know how colorblind friendly the other default options are here, one way you can do that is take a look at a color blindness simulator. There's one in Photoshop here, and I've taken the first 4 values of all of the different default color palettes. And what I often do when I'm visualizing my own data is go ahead and use software to take a look at what it would look like with different types of color blindness. This is the most common type of color blindness. So if we select this, it does a simulation to show us what it could potentially look like if you do have that type of color blindness. Now, as we go through this, you'll notice that some of these are pretty hard to discriminate. So I'm going to go through and mark out just on another layer which ones are probably not colorblind safe. Like these ones are too hard to discriminate in my opinion. These ones probably, these ones, definitely this one. No, these are pretty good. Also pretty good. This one, probably too hard to discriminate. So that gives us a pretty good clue. Now when I turn off the colorblind simulator, we can see which ones that we're left with. We're left with the category 20. We're left with the default, which is great, which is that Tableau 10. And that paired one, remember that was from ColorBrewer certified. But we have some other options here too. Now, when you're going about deciding which colors that you actually want to use, one thing you'll want to think about, especially as it pertains to our data set, is how the information is being grouped together. In this case, what we have going on is we have bad, good, neutral, and reformed characters. There might be some natural grouping, but maybe not. Maybe there's, two values that kind of go together. But what this color palette is implying is that the two blue-ish ones are grouped together and the two greenish ones are grouped together. If you remember my lecture on color theory, you'll know a little bit about the semantics of why that is the case. So when we're looking at these two will probably be seen as more similar. When you visualize your data with these blues, people will interpret the data that is colored blue as more similar than the data that is colored these orangish colors. Maybe also for this Tableau 20, but Tableau 10, set 3, and this dark one seem to be less suggesting that there's an inherent grouping. The other two here are just straight increasing values, so that you'd want to just use those in the case where there's more of a linear relationship. So that's how I go about picking which type of color palette. If I have data like this and I don't think there's an inherent grouping that I want to communicate, I make sure that the colors themselves are not inherently grouped together. So I think that a nice one is set 1 for this particular data set because all of the values seem to be inherently different from one another. So I'm going to change this to set 1, and now we have a palette that is both colorblind safe, seems to imply some distinctions across these different color types. That's great. Maybe you want to use the defaults, but maybe you want to do something custom. Maybe you want to choose your own colors. The way you would do that would be to name the individual colors that you want to use. I'm showing you here the different naming conventions. There's several ways you can do this. You can name the colors by just writing what the names are. If it's more specific than these broad categories of colors, you're going to be out of luck a little bit. We also have this hexadecimal code here, which is a hashtag followed by 6 combinations of letters and numbers. The nice part about this is this can specify all of the different colors that you're using, and you do see people most frequently use these hexadecimal codes. You can also use RGB specification. Nice part about RGB is it is based on red, green, and blue, and that's the type of pixel organization that you have. So this maps most directly onto the pixel displays that you have available. And we have this final color specification here, which I very rarely see used, but it inherently has a way to show opacity, which is sort of nice. So that might be of interest to you. Okay, so let's add a custom scale to our simple chart that we have here. We're going to add it to color, and I'm going to make a new line so it's easier to see. We'll do scale as we've done before. And what we're going to specify now is a range. Our range is how we will enter the different specific color names in this case. So let's start by doing yellow. I'll do a light gray, dark gray, and a black. Make sure and close that out. So here we have specified our individual colors that we want for each, but I actually don't like the organization of this. What I'd really like to have happen is it goes from good to neutral to reform to bad, and then this scale might make a little bit more sense. So we'll also want to change the sort of this. I'm going to just add this sort here and then specify the order in which I want these specific values to appear. Okay, so that's a little bit better. We have bad characters in black, good characters in yellow. That might seem like a fairly straightforward association, good being yellow, black being bad, and then kind of these neutral colors in the middle, okay? And if I do something where I take a screenshot of this just to see if this is colorblind safe and pop it over into Photoshop, what we can do again is do our colorblind simulator. I notice nothing seems to have changed, in part because someone who doesn't have color blindness will see this exactly the same as someone who does. For example, I have a red paintbrush selected here, and I'll draw, and it appears gray, but if I change it back to the regular proofs, it's red. So that shows us that we were in fact using the colorblind simulator, and we just weren't seeing any major differences when the simulator was on or when it was off. So that's a pretty good color palette. That is an ideal take. So we have this. Okay, great. Are we done? It meets the basic criteria where these values are perceptually distinct. It works for those who have color blindness, and it has some natural mapping to good and bad characters. So that could be enough. I think that this is a really great example of a visualization that meets the basic criteria, but it's ugly. It's garish, and this is an important concept to talk about in data visualization, that it's not just about making sure that your visualization is effective. It can also be compelling and interesting and pleasing to look at. That is not what we have going on here. It's just sort of garish. Maybe you like these colors, but I don't happen to like these colors. So what do you do if you're stuck in this place and you're not an artist and you don't know anything about color, but you don't want to make ugly visualizations? One thing you can do is to try to use some websites that might help you along. One of my favorites is this Color Adobe website, and this is nice because it gives you ways to take a look at different types of color palettes. There's a triad, which tends to be very visually pleasing to people, having colors be harmonious. It ensures if you're picking one of these that all of the colors are harmonious. Another one that people really like if you only have two values or if you're creating a diverging color scale is complementary colors. These are the ones that we find the most aesthetically pleasing because they're on opposite sides of the scale. Notice as I move this around, they will be the most distinct and easy to interpret when they are further away on the scale. The nice thing about this is you can kind of pull these values around, find one that you're happy with, and copy over the hexadecimal code into your visualization. Another thing you can do is explore different color palettes for inspiration. And this is really what I do all of the time. These are just the hot ones, but we are using comic book data. So what if we look up comics? We can get a sense of the types of color palettes that are used in comics because we both want to make the data distinguishable, but we also want to create a vibe. We want it to look and feel a certain way. Maybe you want it to represent comic book information. And so one way to do that is to select color palettes that inherently have an association. And this can help you find color palettes that do that, which is really nice. In particular, our data set is looking at good and bad characters. These are all fun, happy comics, right? And you can use any of those color palettes, but ours is really focusing on bad characters, at least the way that I'm kind of envisioning what is being portrayed in this data. As I'm scrolling through this, something that might, pop out to me is something that kind of looks cool, looks a little novel. For example, in our data set, one of the main things I'm conveying is this kind of villain narrative. Who is generally the villains in these books? So if we search villain, you can actually look at a whole range of different color palettes associated with various villains. And this one's sort of interesting here. I quite like this kind of brown grayish approach and kind of an off black color. So that's what I ended up doing for this palette here. I selected a charcoal gray, a medium brown grayish, a more neutral brown grayish, and then to pick this bright color, I searched for comic hero. And something I noticed that I thought was very fascinating is that red is associated with heroes quite a bit. It's almost always present in these color palettes. When I was originally doing this and I had used this color palette here, I think it made a little sense that the bad characters were red. Sometimes red is associated with bad, but of course not in all countries. But then when I started to investigate it more, it's pretty clear that red in superhero context is good and positive and connected with heroes. So then I specified this red character for the good characters. And how we actually did this in the code is rather than using the names, which can be limiting, we specified the individual hexadecimal color for each. That's how we got a visualization like this. I think it's a little more interesting. I think it's certainly better than this color palette here. It's also still perceptually distinguishable and it works for people with color blindness. So the moral of the story is, so there's some hard and fast rules for color. You want to make sure that the colors are discriminable, and by and large, you want to make sure that they work for people who have colorblind deficiencies. That might seem more limiting, especially when you look at a site like ColorBrewer that gives you a single option. But if you do a little bit of investigation on your own to look at different types of color palettes, there will be more available to you. In particular, if we go back to this example, it's important to point out that the default in Vega-Lite Tableau 10 is pretty good. And that is the lovely thing about Vega-Lite, is that you can trust most of the defaults in a way that you couldn't with other software. I hope this exploration of categorical colors in Vega-Lite was valuable to you. Remember to be creative with colors as long as you follow some base rules. If you're not a creative person, then maybe just use some of the built-in options and you should be good to go.